Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be making a really yummy French bread. I was trying to find a good recipe that I like, and when I look for recipes, I kind of put together a whole bunch of different ones and make them my own because I don't like something the one has or something another one has, and I just kind of combine everything together. So I tried making this one time and I found that it was too salty, so I'm definitely going to use less salt on that one. So I think this was going to turn out perfect. So if you guys like videos like this, don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and give me a like. And let's get started on this French bread. So I have my big pan here, my bowl, mixing bowl, and I have about 2.5 cups of warm water. So I'm going to add that to the bowl. And then we have 3 teaspoons of sugar, because when you're using yeast, you want the yeast to be able to eat something. So yeast loves sugar. So I'm mixing that in there. And then you proof your yeast. And that just means that we're going to put our yeast in, mix it up, and when it starts to bubble, that means that it actually is good and it's alive. So this is 3 teaspoons of yeast, dry active yeast. I'm gonna mix this in here and then I'm gonna let it proof. So in a few seconds, maybe about 30, when we start seeing this bubble, we will add our flour. And it's anywhere between 4 and 5 cups of flour that we're gonna add to this. And then once we get that in there, we'll throw our salt. We do not want our salt to touch our yeast sugar mixture because that will kill it. So we'll kind of incorporate it into the flour and stir and make our dough. So just depending on what your altitude and humidity is, you'll kind of see what your consistency is of how much flour you need to your water. And like I said, this is 2.5 cups of warm water. So now that we have proofed our yeast, we're going to go ahead and throw in our 4-ish cups of bread flour. And we'll see if we need more or less. So to that, I'm going to put in our 3 teaspoons of salt. And this is such an airy bread. So after we incorporate this flour, we're going to let it sit for at least half an hour, maybe an hour, just depends on how much it rises, because we want it to rise a lot. And what I did, because it's summertime and it's hot, is I don't want to die in this house sweating without the air conditioner, so I warmed up my oven just a little bit for like, I don't know, 3 to 5 minutes on 350. And I just sprayed some water. That way it can be nice and humid in there. And I'm gonna throw this pan in there. So I'm gonna go ahead, actually add a little bit more, because you see how sticky that is? That's a little too sticky. Add a little bit more. See, this is kind of our kneading here with the spoon or with the spatula. So I'm gonna go ahead and leave this just like that, and I'm going to stick it in my warm oven and let it rise. So this should double in size at least, but we want it to rise a lot. That way it could be nice and airy, yummy in the middle, and a crispy crust on the outside. So I'm gonna go stick this in my warm oven right now. So I have my dough in the bowl and it is going to rise. I have it in my warm oven and I'm gonna leave it in there for about 45 minutes to an hour, just depending on how much it rises, because I want it to rise a lot, if not half, more than half. After that comes out and it has risen, I will be putting flour on my counter here and we will roll it out. So it's so much fun when your dough rises. It feels so nice and airy and I can hardly wait for it to finish. But I'll be back once the dough has risen. So our bread has risen. Let's see. So what we're gonna do now is I'm going to lay out some flour on my counter and then we're gonna roll it out to do 2 loaves of French bread. So I'll put my flour out here. Take this very airy dough out of the bowl. And we're gonna roll it. I don't want to mess with it too much because I want to keep all of those air bubbles in there. So I'm just gonna roll it into a good size rectangle. And then what we're going to do is roll these. And now our second here. I'm gonna roll my end in, roll my other end in, and transfer it to my baking sheet. And we are going to let these rise again for, I'd say probably about an hour. We want them to rise a lot. That way they could be nice and airy. So I'll be back and I'll tell you how long you have to stick them in the oven for them to be yummy, crusty French bread. Okay, so we let them rise and they really rose. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna stick this in the oven for only 20 minutes and then they'll be ready. We're gonna put them on a cooling rack in front of my window here and I'm gonna let them cool down and then we can cut them open and try. I actually don't like to cut them open, I like to tear them apart. So I'm gonna go throw this in the oven at 375 degrees for 20 minutes. So I've let my bread cool in front of the window and we're just gonna take it apart and then we're gonna taste it. So we have our big loaves here. Smells so good. That's one of my favorite things to smell is fresh bread. How pretty is that? And it's so cheap to make your own bread at home. You can get a huge bag of flour from Costco for like $5. So it's definitely a way to go if you like to bake and stuff like that. Okay, so let's take a piece. Yes, It is so airy inside. This is such an easy recipe. The only hard part is having to wait for it to rise. But I mean, once you let it rise the 2 times, stick it in your oven, 20 minutes later, let it cool for a little while, you have some fresh bread. 2 loaves out of that, that is a steal. If you guys like videos like this, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.